What do I believe to be true about me being fat? Taking ownership, extreme ownership for every single thing that's going on in your life. And learn a different way of looking at money. If I don't do it, I stay broke. If I don't do it, I stay fat. If I don't do it, I'm gonna be single for the rest of my life. Welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Permanent Transformation podcast. I'm your host, Emmanuel Babeș, health and fitness coach. Been doing that for almost a decade, and a realtor here in the beautiful state of Utah. And in this show, we're going to talk about being stuck and what to do to unstuck yourself. Because being stuck is something that is not happening by chance. It's not happening by mistake. And so this is a lifelong homework that we all try to untangle throughout this human life experience. And from my personal experience, I think there are many ways and tools to unstuck ourselves and basically keep evolving. Right now, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, as you can tell by listening to my voice. And that didn't happen by mistake, okay? So the reason why we're stuck in life doesn't happen without a reason. So now I'm a little bit stuffy. I got sick, not because I didn't have luck, not because it was someone else's fault. I stayed consistent with some unhealthy behaviors that got me here. So let's talk about that. I stayed up late. I'm talking to someone who's living outside of the state, 2 hours ahead, time difference. And we're chatting late at night. I've been staying up late. I've been sleeping fewer hours compared to before. I started abusing caffeine and stimulants, obviously, because I started feeling more and more tired. And I've been overdoing it. As a result of that, my immune system took a hit. And I caught a little virus and I got sick. Okay. Woke up one morning with sore throat, stuffy nose, and now I am dealing with the consequences. And so in life, anything we do or don't do has a repercussion. In the first episode, I talked about my past. I talked about me being out of shape, skinny fat, struggling with health problems. And some people might say, well, it wasn't necessarily your fault. You grew up in this environment and, you didn't have quality food. You didn't have great hygiene. There are a lot of things going on. Just because I grew up in an environment that was not conducive to a good health, to a good body composition, it doesn't mean I didn't have the opportunity to change that down the road. But it starts with awareness. So basically, my stagnation started within this environment that I was brought up in. Okay. Within that environment, where people were out of shape and people were telling each other some stories that were reinforcing some poor behaviors that kept them stuck in this little bubble of being out of shape, struggling with health issues. And I was born and raised within that environment. So I did not have context. But I also understand that within that environment, I started taking on these stories that I was exposed to. As you're becoming an adult, it's normal to gain weight and become fat and lose your hair and struggle with health issues. That was the story. Now, with that story, there were many behaviors that I was watching, I was being exposed to every single day. People were drinking alcohol consistently. People were overeating food consistently. People were working very long hours without giving themselves enough rest. People were not cleaning up themselves, washing themselves, brushing their teeth. They were not checking their health consistently. And so, because I was being exposed to all these behaviors, I started ingraining them in my own identity. And once that happened, of course I started struggling with health issues. Of course I was out of shape, skinny and fat. Of course I was getting winded walking up the hill. So all these things were normal, but these things did not happen by chance. That's what I'm trying to say. These things happen because of me taking the information from the environment, processing the information, and translating this information into daily habits and routines that got me to the point where I started struggling with my health, where I started struggling with my body composition, body image, and so on. So it's not by mistake if you're watching this and if you're stuck in a body that you don't want or is not in alignment with who you're looking to become. Now it's time to practice some awareness around that. Let's go back to the environment. What is your current environment that has been feeding you with stories that turned into behaviors and habits that have been keeping you stuck? Okay, and I'm going to share with you some exercises at the end of this episode that you can apply in your day-to-day life, and hopefully you'll be able to break free from being stuck, because these things that I'm going to share with you can apply in your business, financial life, right? In your relationships, in your health and fitness, in your relationship with your family, the dynamic that you have within your family, and so on. And so getting stuck, staying stuck, getting and staying stuck is not happening by mistake. Now let's see how this translates into our financial health. Okay. I'm sure many of us have experienced what being poor feels and looks like. I know I did. But is this something that can change? Is this something that you have the power to change down the road? In my case, I feel like it was. And everybody that I know who's well off today, amongst my clients, friends, my close sphere of influence, where people are making good money, the majority of them came from poor families. And they were able to break free from that following the same system. It all starts with awareness. It all starts with awareness. Awareness around the environment that is keeping us stuck. with that awareness, they learn, they become aware again of the stories that are being told and perpetuated within that environment. And then with these stories, there are sets of beliefs and feelings which trigger action. I feel in a certain way. I believe certain things. And as a result of that, I act in accordance to my beliefs. Okay? So, being broke, back in Romania, I saw both my parents working their butts off. And I'm grateful for that experience nonetheless, because it taught me some invaluable skills that have been helping me along the way. But also, I developed some bad habits and bad mentalities around money that have kept me stuck for a long time, or if not stuck, led to yo-yoing with money. The same thing people are yo-yoing with fat loss. They lose the weight, they gain it back, lose the weight, gain it back. Goes back to the mindset, to the belief system. And of course, having a sustainable plan and long-term vision. But I did have a plan and sort of vision, but my mindset around money was skewed. And I'm still working on that because I'm not nearly where I want to be. What was I seeing around myself? I see this young couple, which I'm calling my parents. I'm calling them my parents. I see them busting their asses off, working hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours. My mom, when I was living with them, she was the cleaning lady of this, let's call it the IRS of Romania. Now she works as a clerk for them, but she was this cleaning lady showing up, overnight shift, very tiring, hard work. Sometimes she was being called out and bullied, institutionally bullied. And I saw that growing up, because sometimes I would finish school and then I would go spend time with her. And there are these people that were higher in their rank compared to my mom, and they're giving her a hard time. And I started seeing that every single day. I would spend time with my mom while she was working. And that kind of sent a message, seeded a message in my head. If you're coming from poverty, you deserve to be bullied. You deserve to be treated as such. And my dad was working in a carpentry factory. I share this in episode 1. That was my first job illegally in a factory, working with him. But the same thing, like sometimes he would leave at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., and come back at 9 or 10 or even midnight. And that would go on for months. And I wouldn't see my dad much because he was working. And when he was home, he was trying to distress himself, abusing alcohol. It was hard for me to really connect with him because of that. And so what was the lesson that I was learning about money in that environment? Well, the lesson was that in order to make money, you have to destroy yourself. You have to destroy your health. You have to give up your health, your freedom, time with family. You have to sacrifice right? Money is hard to come by. Another message that was being installed in my brain. And so seeing that for pretty much my entire childhood, and I also saw my parents buying bread, and they had this little notebook at the store with their names on, and they would go buy bread for an entire month, and then when they would get their salary, their paycheck, they would have to pay off all this debt. And they did that with gas tanks, they did that with food at the grocery store, bread, all that stuff. And anytime they would get paid, they'll pay off all this debt, and they will start from the beginning. Another message that got instilled in my head is it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough. You're always having to work your ass off. And so seeing all these things kept me poor. Kept me poor because I was lacking awareness. I didn't understand that there is another way to make things happen. The only thing that I learned was to work hard. And I said this in the beginning, that I'm grateful for seeing my parents working hard, oftentimes regardless of how they felt. Because nowadays we see people that are not feeling like working, and they just simply quit or stop going to work. Well, that can give me some advantage because I can get shit done regardless of how I feel. I think of my parents. I know there are days where they did not want to go to work, yet they did it. And they did it for a long time. They're still doing it now. When I'm FaceTiming them and I ask about their life, they just, that's their environment. And so, if you're living in the United States of America and you struggle financially, I don't think you will be limited as much by corruption and nepotism. You'll find a lot of that in Romania and Eastern Europe, in communist countries. I'm not saying Romania is a communist country, but you still feel the scars left by the communists. And anytime you're willing to take the leap, take it to the next level, regardless of how hard you're willing to work, there's always going to be someone trying to push you back down, trying to cap you. I don't feel like this is the case here in the US. And so now, if you're broke, if you struggle financially here in the United States, the first thing you need is awareness. What is the environment that have been feeding me with these poor beliefs around money that led to certain habits, maybe spending impulsively on a credit card? That's a big problem here in the US. Everybody has a credit card, which is a trap if you don't have the discipline, if you don't have principles, if you don't have a vision, if you don't have a strategy. It's very easy to buy emotionally stuff and then accumulate debt, and then you work, and then you pay it off, buy more shit, go to work, accumulate, pay off the debt. It's just a rat race, okay? So if you're broke here in the US, it might not be by chance. There's something you can do about it. I see more millionaires, more people who become millionaires here in the US compared to anywhere else. So you take it for what it's worth. But I feel like if this is not the country where you have the biggest potential, then where can you do that? Where can you become wealthy? Knowing that you're willing to work. You're willing to do whatever it takes. Where else can you do that if not in the United States of America? That's another reason why I respect this country and I love this country so much. And so the first thing that changed my mind around money was when I became a personal trainer and I started training people back in Romania. Successful people, successful entrepreneurs. There was this guy, Levi, who was owning a dealership, but not any kind of dealership. A really good dealership that was making good money and had a great reputation. It still has a great reputation. This guy was a pure entrepreneur and he was successful. And so when I started working with him, I explained that, look, I'm coming from an environment where money was scarce. I didn't understand how money works. I was being told all these stories. And he started giving me snippets of wisdom. And months went by, and he started giving me books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the first book that he gave me. And then many other books on financial literature, personal development, discipline, and so on. And I started seeing how rich people see the world. I started putting myself in their shoes because now, at this point, I'm aware of the fact that there is a different kind of environment and story and set of behaviors out there that I might not know of. I never experienced before, but I'm willing and eager to explore that and learn a different way of looking at money, putting myself in a different environment with different people that think of money, produce money, treat money differently than the individuals in the environment that I was brought up in. So that experience was eye-opening for me from a financial standpoint. And then I started working with more successful entrepreneurs, coaching more entrepreneurs that were sharing with me ideas, concepts, the way they look at money, the way they invest their money, the way they manage their money. And it was great. It gave me hope. But now I had to really go back to my default programming and I had to rework my entire story, my entire mindset around money. And I'll share with you 2 ways you can do that. And you can apply those tools or strategies in any area of your life. And I can assure you that if you're doing it consistently, you will see tremendous transformation. But you have to do it. Okay? You have to be willing to do the work. Listening to this podcast is great. Getting inspired and hyped up and motivated, that is all great. But motivation will die out very quickly. Inspiration can die out very quickly as well. All you're left with is some ideas on a piece of paper and the work that you need to do. That's all it is for transformation, is consistent work. And if it's new work that's unfamiliar to you, it's going to feel extremely uncomfortable at first. Very uncomfortable, and it's not fun. Yet you still have to do it regardless of your feelings. Remember that. That's what I've learned from my parents. I know what I have to do. I have a plan now. It does feel uncomfortable. All of it feels unfamiliar, yet I have to do it. Nobody gives a crap about how I feel. Okay, so if I don't do it, I stay broke. If I don't do it, I stay fat and out of shape. If I don't do it, I don't have a good relationship, or I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. Now, going back to the making money part, it's so crazy. Right now in the US, I do have people, I have the opportunity, which I'm very grateful for, to spend time with other fellow human beings who are making multiple six figures, seven figures a month. My parents together, my family together, we're not even making six figures in a year. Just to get an idea of this huge discrepancy of the way we see money. And in the beginning, for me, that was a shock. It was hard to believe that you can make multiple six figures a month. Not even thinking of seven figures. That was like out of the question for me. Not out of question. It was not a possibility. That was fiction. And so spending time with these individuals and asking them questions and having the opportunity to understand how they see money, how they look at money, how learn about their abundance mindset and attitude. It's a blessing. So you got to put yourself in an environment that is conducive to your goals. If you want to make more money, spend more time with people that are making more money than you are. If you want to be fitter and healthier, spend more time with people that are fitter and healthier and perform better than you. That's how I see you change your environment, you change the set of beliefs, you obviously change the way you feel about doing the things, and then you change your behaviors. You do that consistently, you start seeing transformation. Now, when it comes to relationships, the same concept applies. If you're single right now, or you've been single for a long time, or you've been struggling to be in a relationship, it's not by mistake. It is not. I am right now not in a relationship, but I was in an almost 7-year long relationship. And I'm single right now, not by mistake. I've done certain things that have contributed to me being single. Okay? And I can speak from my angle. Obviously, when it comes to a lasting relationship, it comes down to both partners that need to do 100% of the work. I do 100%. My partner does 100%. And we find ways to make things work. But from my angle of view, I have made some mistakes. But I want to share with you where these mistakes came from. Okay? So growing up, I saw my parents always arguing over money. Another thing was they got out of shape. As soon as they had my brother, my mom started gaining weight, losing her hair, struggling with gut issues. My dad picked up a lot of weight too. He quit. He was a judo athlete. He quit that. And they were all frustrated, out of shape, angry all the time. And being exposed to that, I learned, at least me pondering on that experience, trying to extract the lessons. I think I was programmed the wrong way. And I believe I was programmed the wrong way, but I didn't want to take on that responsibility. and change anything about it. And so my partner and I, my ex and I, started a business together, a coaching business together. And in the first 2 or 3 years of entrepreneurship, of partnership, we made decent money. We were pretty successful and happy. We started traveling a lot. We started buying nice things. But in my head, I was always looking for reasons why she would screw me over financially. She would screw us over financially. And anytime she would buy something for herself, I would get triggered. She would buy something for herself, and let's say in that month we didn't have a good month of income. Maybe he's right, maybe he's not. But I was looking for reasons to start an argument, and specifically around money, what my parents used to do. And so I started putting more pressure, and the way she was operating was completely different. The more pressure I started applying towards this financial dynamic between us, the more demotivated she would get. And she slowly got checked out from the company, from the business. She no longer wanted to be in a partnership and make money and serve clients and be successful. She literally shot off. Was it because of me? Was it because of her? Was it because of both of us? I don't know. But I can tell you that I have made some mistakes. And those mistakes came from the way I was programmed. Okay? Had I realized that earlier in our relationship, we would have still been together. So, you grow up in a family where you see, if you're struggling right now with finding a partner, you are in a relationship for a few months and then you break up. You get into another relationship for a few months and then you break up. And then on and off. Okay? I'm asking you to go back into your childhood and see what you've seen. What have you been exposed to? What happened between your mom and dad? Are they still together? If not, why? What have you been exposed to on a daily basis? And then, what stories have you been exposed to on a daily basis? Or you've been told consistently? I hear a woman say things like, men are bad, men are mean, men are jerks, men are this. And then, okay, tell me more. Where is that coming from? Oh, my grandma used to say that a lot. Oh, what happened to your grandma? Oh, she had this bad relationship with my grandpa, and she came to this realization that men are evil. Okay. You've been exposed to that story for long enough, you develop some feelings, and then you develop some habits. So now you're probably looking for that man who's mean, who's evil. And regardless of what you do, if you don't become aware of your behaviors that attract that kind of man in your life, you're never going to break free from that. Same thing with guys who attract gold diggers or whatever toxic partners in their lives. What was the environment? What were the stories? What were the habits and behaviors that you developed that are attracting that type of personality in your life? Once you become aware of that, you will break free from stagnation. Okay, so I'm going to share with you 2 models that I've been using with myself to get in the best shape of my life permanently. I mean, nothing is permanent, but get in the best shape of my life and stay in the greatest shape of my life. Be on my own financially and do decent. I'm far from where I want to be, but I don't call my parents to ask for my bills being paid by them. I don't sleep in my cousin's basement or mom's basement. My parents don't even live here in the US. I don't have debt, which I'm grateful for. So anyway, I'm going to share with you these models that have been working. And I'm sharing these models from my personal experience. Some of the clients that I've been coaching have been using these models for themselves as well. So before we dive into that, I think it's important to understand the mechanism that leads to stagnation. So I think I gave a couple of examples up until this point. But remember when you started learning how to drive a car, what did you have to do? You had to ask someone to teach you the skills. So you had an instructor, maybe it was your parent, one of your parents. And they had you follow a sequence of actions. They had you do that, and at first you had to put in a lot of conscious effort. Right? Turn the key in, release the brake pedal, shift gears into drive, everything that you need to do to start operating a vehicle. Now, the next thing is doing that consistently for a long period of time until all those skills get ingrained into your subconscious mind, into your nervous system. So now most of you watching this who have been operating an automobile for a long time, you're probably going from work, from your office to your home, and you don't even realize what you did in the process. You know that you've been in your car listening to a podcast, maybe to this podcast, but you don't know, okay, I pushed this, I did that, no, everything is automatic, became automatic. Now, the same thing happens with bad behaviors. You start learning these behaviors one step at a time, and you put in conscious effort in the beginning. But then over time, you repeat, that gets ingrained in your subconscious mind. Now, that's how you can also rewrite that. You learn a new behavior that is a positive behavior. You have to put in conscious effort to do it consistently. Obviously, that behavior, that habit needs to be sustainable to a degree so you can stick to it regardless of how you feel for long enough until it gets ingrained into your subconscious mind. So now that we know how environment influences outcome through stories, beliefs, feelings, actions, now let's untangle all this thing. Okay? So the first tool that I'm using is this circle of influence. And when we're not aware of it, I call it the circle of stagnation. And it all starts with the belief. The belief leads to an attitude. The attitude translates into action. Action translates into an outcome, into a result. Okay? So we have, here at the top, we have the belief. And then we have attitude. And then we have action. And then we have outcome. Okay? So now let's apply this in something that is not a positive thing. Let's apply this into being stuck and out of shape, obese or overweight. The belief system is what? Obesity runs in the family. This is a very common thing that we as coaches run into consistently. We have clients that have tried multiple things to get in shape, to lose weight, to optimize their health, their body, and they have this belief that says obesity runs in the family. It's genetics. It doesn't work for me. So that's the belief, right? Now, what's the attitude when it comes to counting calories, creating a calorie deficit, meal prepping, going to the gym consistently, getting your steps in? What is the attitude? Well, the attitude is no matter what, this is the belief, no matter what I have to do, I will find ways to prove myself right. Obesity runs in the family. Then when it comes to tracking calories, I half-ass it. I half-ass the whole thing. When it comes to, or I'm not doing it right. I'm not asking for feedback from a coach. I'm not reaching out for help. I'm just getting information off Google, Instagram, YouTube, so on and so forth. And I always find ways to sabotage. Okay, so that's the attitude. I'm biased towards my belief. I'm not completely bought, or I'm not completely sold to this idea that I can break free because it runs in the family. It's genetics. Okay, so actions, when it comes to actions, how do those actions translate from the belief and the attitude? The actions translate into something like this. I follow a super strict diet that is not sustainable, and I'm going to fall off, and I'm going to overeat, and I'm going to the outcome, which is I'm stuck. I'm gaining the weight back. And then that reinforces the belief. Okay? So you can see the circle of stagnation. Belief system, it runs in the family. Obesity runs in the family. Attitude, I don't think this is going to work for me. Action, I'm going to do 75 hard, which is extremely unsustainable. Outcome, I get some results, but I also fall off and I gain the weight back plus more, which reinforces my belief again. And then I spin in that circle until my years of life are gone. Okay, so that's the circle of stagnation. Now, if we take the same model and rewire it, we can make some amazing progress. Stick with me. If you want to break free from this circle of stagnation, it all starts with awareness. So the first question that I would ask myself is, what is the belief system around this topic that's keeping me stuck? If I'm out of shape or if I'm broke, I'm questioning my beliefs. What do I believe to be true about me being fat? Obesity runs in the family. It's very common. Okay, where did I get this belief? What do I want to? So first, you need to be aware of it. You've seen it in your family. I've seen it in my family. And of course, it runs in the family when everybody's eating hyper palatable, ultra processed food, over consuming calories. Nobody's going to the gym. Nobody's doing any sports, playing any sports. Everybody is out of shape. That's the environment. So now I'm becoming aware of the belief. Now, the second thing is, what do I want to believe instead? And this is where the work begins. So you write down, okay, this is the belief that is no longer serving me. Here's what I want to believe instead. I want to believe that I'm capable to lose 50 pounds and keep them off and get six-pack shredded. Okay? So I'm becoming aware of what I don't want, but also what do I want instead. Okay? Now, once I'm clear on what I want instead, the next step is to make a list of the things that I need to do consistently, habits that I need to change consistently. And that requires conscious, repeated, consistent effort from your behalf. Without that, nothing will change. So once you become aware of what you want to do and then how you're going to get there, then you need accountability, which goes hand in hand with your environment. So accountability comes from hanging out with people that value health, that value being shredded, losing body fat, keeping it off, that value living a healthy lifestyle. That's where accountability comes from. It's not calling your buddy who's 100 pounds overweight and ask him, hey man, can you check on me every day if you went to the gym? No. Accountability, real accountability, comes from either having a coach that lives the life that you want, and with that, a community built by that coach of other individuals who are aiming for the same goals that you are. And you get to spend time with these guys on calls, Zoom calls, phone calls, whatever, group sessions. Or you just change your own circle of influence, your closest circle of influence. Bring other people in your life. Hang out with, go to a gym, local gym, and shake hands. Introduce yourself. Talk to people. Share with them your intentions. Hey, can we do a workout together tomorrow? Hey, what are you training tomorrow? Can I join you? Can I learn from you? Is that okay? I bet you nobody will tell you no. I said yes to many individuals, and some of them I'm still friends with to this day. We're hanging out, and they simply ask me, "Hey, can I work out with you?" Of course. Are you willing to do what I'm doing? You're not forced to. Whatever, if it's too much, that's fine. And they did that, and they did that consistently, and we're friends. Those are my friends, and now they're fit. They're better. They're fitter. I'm learning some of them are financially astute. And I'm learning from them about business, finances. So those go hand in hand. And then now you have the awareness. You know what you don't want. You know what you want instead. You know what you need to do to get to your goal, to what you want. You need accountability, number 4, and you need the environment, number 5. Okay? If you have these things together and you hang in there for months, for years, you are transcending. You are transforming, my friend. You are reaching a lasting transformation. You're creating a brand new identity of yourself. So that's the model number 1. Model number 2, I call that becoming the creator, because you are the creator of your life, of your body's transformation, of your future family. You are the creator. Now, that comes down to one important word, and that is ownership. That is ownership. Taking ownership, extreme ownership for every single thing that's going on in your life. Being the victor, not the victim. A lot of times people think that life happens to them. Oh my God, my kids want to eat McDonald's. My wife wants to go to Burger King and stop by the grocery store and buy ice cream and cookies. And my buddies party all the time, and all they do is drink beers and barbecue and overindulge all the time. Oh my God, I have so many treats in my office, especially my real estate office. We do have a lot of vendors that stop by and they provide us with so many treats that are very calorie dense. And there are donuts, there are cookies, there are all sorts of things. Very calorie dense. And I see a lot of people in my office that are just going with the flow. And then they ask me, dude, how can I get in shape? What should I do? It's like, first thing, dude, you're just over consuming calories consistently. Take ownership. Because I hear this a lot. Oh my God, my office sucks. They have so many snacks. No, it's not that your office sucks. When was the last time you talked to the leadership and asked for a different approach, from a different way of, bringing in food, different kinds of food? Give them different ideas. Or simply bring in your meal. Okay, take ownership. Don't blame on things that you have zero control over, because you're going to be a victim. You're giving your power away. So now you're powerless. You're just bitching, moaning, and complaining while staying stuck, while reinforcing this idea that you can't do anything. You're a lost cause. That is not true, my friend. That is not true. Don't be a victim, be a victor. Take ownership, full responsibility. And ask yourself some self-discovery questions. What choices have I made until this point that got me stuck? And write those things down. Whether that's in health and fitness, finances, relationships, whatever that is, write them down. What choices have I made that have gotten me here to the point where I'm stuck? Write them down, okay? And then the next question is very simple. What choices can I make moving forward to change that? Okay, because trust me, nobody is forcing you. I think we can both agree that nobody is forcing you when you're feeling anxious at the end of the day to lock yourself in the pantry and eat sleeves of cookies. Nobody's forcing you to do that. You're doing it yourself. And then you're blaming on the stressful day, which, again, we can both agree that is not going to serve you. That is not going to help you break free from that cycle. So take ownership. I literally said this multiple times. I can't stress enough. You're not the victim anymore. Okay? You can change that. You are the creator. Now, let me walk you through the model. Let me show you how you can apply that on a daily basis. So you grab a piece of paper, and on the left-hand side, you write the word victim. And you can put in parenthesis, powerless. Okay? Victim, powerless. And underneath, you write this question. What choices am I making right now that are keeping me stuck in health and fitness, in relationships, in my career, whatever you want to change? And then on the right-hand side, you write victor. And then in parenthesis, you put powerful. The power of choice. Okay? And right underneath, you have this simple yet very powerful question that you will ask yourself on a daily basis. What choices am I going to make starting right now to get a positive outcome? Health and fitness, relationships, business, career, finances. And you start leaving behind the victim's mentality, where you start blaming the environment, where you used to blame the environment. You used to blame other people. You probably used to blame your boss. You probably used to blame your kids. You probably used to blame the world, okay? The politics, but yourself. You used to blame everybody else and everything else but yourself. Very disempowering. A very challenging way to live. To feel disempowered. to feel weak. Right? So everything, all the stories, all the habits, the environment that you have developed around those stories, the choices that you've made, okay? Write everything down. Bring it to your awareness. Because when you see it on a piece of paper, you can pinpoint it and you can ask yourself, what am I choosing instead? Okay? And then we're moving onto the right column. And then we change the narrative. What am I choosing? So let me give you some examples. The victim mindset. It's other people's fault. Everything happens to me. My schedule sucks. My kids want to eat McDonald's. The gym is too far. Or there are too many people in the gym. I don't want to track my calories. It's boring. I don't have time to meal prep. And I can go on and on. Now on the right side, okay, I'm taking full responsibility. Life is happening for me. Now, what are the lessons that I can learn? It's not my children's fault that I'm eating McDonald's every day. It is on me that I educated my children to eat McDonald's every single day. And I can change that. How can I change that? Who can help me change that? It's not that my schedule sucks. How can I organize myself better to get more shit done? It's not that the gym is too crowded. It's how can I learn to work out effectively without having to wait for other people at the gym? That's what we do with our clients. It's not that meal prepping is too hard or sucks. It's about how can I meal prep in a way that is effective and I enjoy it? How can I create systems, effective systems around meal prepping that can fit my calories, my macros, my health and fitness goals? I enjoy it. There are ways to do it. This is what we do for our students in our coaching programs. Doing cardio sucks. That's a very common, oh my God, I hate doing cardio. It's a victim thing. It's like, cool, well, you got to move. Now, how can I get more steps in a smart way? How can I park as far away as possible from the grocery store that forces me to walk a little? How can I take the stairs instead of taking the elevator? In my real estate office, I always take the stairs up and down multiple times. I never take the elevator unless I do have a bunch of heavy signs that I need to carry up and down. So instead of being the victim, now you're becoming the victor. Now you're taking full ownership and responsibility, and you are becoming the creator of your life. I'll see you in the next episode.